The captain is here to stay. Today, the Calgary Flames and Mikael Backlund announced that they signed a 2-year extension, meaning he will get his wish of being a Flame when the brand new Scotia Place opens.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I am your host, Jessica Belmosto, and thank you so much for joining me. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app today by visiting FanDuel.com and get $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Today, we are talking all about the completely and fully unexpected contract extension announcement from the captain, Mikael Backlund, as well as discussing what this likely means for the up-and-coming centers for the Flames in their prospect system, as well as some good news ahead of training camp. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. And let's jump into this because what a completely unexpected announcement this afternoon. Mikael Backlund and the Flames announced that he signed a 2-year extension with an average annual value of $3.25 million. It's a good price, I would say, even with the cap going up. It's fair. He's in the final season of a deal now, so he has 3 more full seasons with the Flames. And of course, that final season being in the brand new building, which that's pretty cool. That's what he talked about a few weeks ago. He shared, I believe it was on the 32 Thoughts podcast, that he wants to play for the Flames once the new building opens. He wants to be a part of the organization. So he's here to stay. He made it clear in the press conference that him and Craig Conroy did that he's here to stay. He loves Calgary. His family loves the city. This is their home. And he doesn't want to play for another organization, which I find commendable considering how many players we see go, I hate saying ring chasing because that sounds silly, but they take that risk and they leave the team that they've played for their entire career to be traded at the deadline and in hopes of winning a Stanley Cup. And I mean, we saw that last year with Brad Marchand. So, I wouldn't expect Backlund to do that. But again, at the same time, I also wouldn't expect a player like Brad Marchand to do that. So anything is possible, but it makes sense for him and his family to, keep the roots planted in Calgary. So good for them. I remember when his youngest was born, and it's hard to believe that I'm pretty sure he's in kindergarten now. So, time flies, and him and his wife Frida are very involved in the Calgary community with their different projects. So it's great to see Parachute for Pets along with the Calgary ALS Foundation. So great to see more of that coming down the pipeline as well for them. Conroy and him met at the end of last season, like all players do. And Conroy said, there's no pressure. Want you to go take the summer, spend the time with your family, and just think about what you want to do. There's no timeline. And about 3 weeks ago, Backlund called Conroy and got the tires kicking again. So it's good to see that they have such a good relationship and that it's an open communication with the captain and the general manager. I feel like in years past, we've seen the Flames kind of have an arm's reach, distance, a little bit of distance between really everyone, but it's great to see there. He will be 39 when this deal is up, which is a little bit concerning when you remember we already saw regression from him last season. He dealt with a handful of injuries, which, obviously can't fault the player for, but he's showing his age, if you will. That regression has started. He's still a good center. And since being captain, he's had 19 goal seasons in back-to-back 15 goal campaigns. So I am not necessarily overly worried about this. However, I am worried about them keeping him in the lineup in a position that could be better filled by a younger player. And we're going to talk more about that next. But overall, I think this is a good deal. I think that it makes sense. I never really saw the Flames considering trading Backlund, especially since Conroy's, they played together and they're buddies and what have you. But I think it's just super important to, especially with this new wave of players coming in, that loyalty gets you somewhere, and it's important to really establish your roots and as well as play your heart out, because I don't think if he was fourth line center his whole career, we'd be having this conversation. But good for Backlund, good for the family. Super excited to see what the future holds for them. And this also means I tweeted about this the other day. I was like, oh, I can't wait to see Mackenzie Weegar be named captain. And then like 2 days later, the extension for Backlund was announced. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess we're gonna wait 3 years for that, at least 3 or 4 years. So we'll have to see where that goes, but it's exciting. You don't have to wear a letter on your chest to accomplish or to be a good leader, but overall, a good deal. You can't complain. I cannot imagine this contract being moved, not because it's impossible to move, but because Backlund said he wants to be a Flame the remainder of his career. And I don't think Conroy is going to stir the pot or ruffle any feathers there. But coming up next, we are going to talk about what Backlund's extension likely means in terms of their up-and-coming center prospects, as well as Connor Zary. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch Money is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you, and you can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money. You can identify that you aren't saving as much as you thought you were, and Monarch helps notice an inefficient investment allocation and discover forgotten 401ks from past jobs. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off of your first year. That's 50% off of your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNHL. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you are subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We're here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. Your Calgary Flames every day. What does this mean for what does this signal for the Flames prospects that are likely going to be playing down the middle? And of course, the Flames have restocked their prospect pool over the last few years, and this most recent draft was Cullen Potter and Cole Reshny, who are projected to be very solid centers. And Reshny was especially, but both of them are in college. They're taking the NCAA route, and obviously they can't go to college and sign a professional contract at the same time. So to me, this tells me nothing is happening with them in the next year or two. With the new AHL rules in the new updated CBA, they will be AHL eligible. So I'm curious if maybe 1 year in college does the trick and then they're good to go. Or could it be 2 years in college and kind of do the Matt Coronado route where you sign your ECL or ELC, wow, right after your season's done. I I have a hard time with this, not because I think Backlund isn't worthy of playing still, but because we talk about this team wanting to get younger and to get more competitive. But then when you sign a player or extend a player through their 39th birthday, it feels very counterproductive unless you plan on moving him down to the fourth line, because you need to really be smart about how you're allocating your minutes. We don't know if Connor Zary is going to be a center or not, a full-time center. And this is where I get kind of hung up on it, is because we watched it happen with Sam Bennett, where he was not used to his full potential, ended up getting traded, and then won back-to-back Stanley Cups. And underutilizing a player, especially as young and that has the potential of Connor Zary, is a detriment. And it speaks to the Flames. Like, if they let this happen twice in 5 years, like, it would speak to their development, and they would need to reevaluate situations. But this doesn't give me a lot of confidence. I think that with the Flames trading for Morgan Frost, you knew that he was going to be the 2C. Okay? That's fine. You have Kadri, Frost. And let's say Connor Zary does play a lot at center this preseason, and he excels. Okay, you could put him as your 3C and then have Backlund as your fourth. Or Backlund stays at third, Zary starts at fourth. I think you have to be flexible at this time, just because you don't want rigidness is not going to get you anywhere. This is not set. Nothing is set in stone. Nothing is permanent. And there's a lot of young talent within the Flames organization that they need to figure out the full upside of and take full advantage of it, because really, with Connor Zary's back-to-back injuries that ended his season last year, and him not really getting much playing time at center, and then trying Pospisil at center, like, it just feels very, I don't want to say counterproductive, but it's a little confusing because it's sending very different messages. And I guess, why would you, like, did you proactively trade for Frost? Or was this like a reactionary thing, like, okay, we're not putting Zary at center, we're gonna do this, and that? Like, I would love to know the thought process, and it's still early. And the other thing is Kadri really going to finish his contract up with the Flames? Because I don't think so. Originally, I thought, yeah, like, it's probably, but I think if they miss the playoffs again this season, or are trending in that direction, he could be on the move at his own wishes. I don't think the Flames would ever just be like, okay, pack up and go. They respect him, and I think their leadership group as a whole far too much to do that. But you have to do something in order to move your rebuild along, because prioritizing veterans over a young group does not do you much good, which is where I feel like this organization has kind of found themselves time and time again. It's like they make a little bit of progress in some sort of transitional period, and then it's like full stop. Like we're only focusing on the veterans, our leadership group, our guys, and players like Sam Bennett get thrown to the wayside. And it's not what you want. Like you're continuing to repeat processes and cycles that have not moved you anywhere. And I think what's going to be a huge determination for the Flames' future as well this season is, of course, how these first 9 games go. Because that's going to set the tone for the season. The same way that they got off to their 5-0 start last year really set the tone. Can they come out of the gate swinging? Very tough schedule. I want to see what this team has to offer. And for me, like, I really don't want to jump the gun and say, yeah, the Flames, like, they blew it, because they didn't. That's so overreactionary. I think this was just a very completely unexpected 2-year extension the day before camp, so it kind of caught people off guard. However, let's not rule Backlund out. He dealt with injuries last season. Conroy says everyone's healthy. So let's take his word for it. And hopefully we get another 15 plus goal season from Backlund and move him down to the 4th line if things start going south. Like it's not rocket science, but we'll see where things go, because again, it is far too early. The training camp rosters were just announced, which we're going to talk about coming up next, but take a deep breath. Backlund being here does not it's not a detriment to the Flames. A deep breath will do you some good. But coming up next, we're going to talk about Craig Conroy's updates ahead of camp, Zayne Parekh being good to go, and of course, breaking down the 3 training camp groups. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using the FanDuel app because, number one, it's super easy to use. You can assemble a same-game parlay in a matter of minutes, easy deposit or withdrawal, as well as just making my Sunday more exciting. If there's not a game that I'm overly invested in, throw some money on the over, because who doesn't love some offense? So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you're following me on Twitter at JessBelmosto. So, one of the biggest questions heading into training camp was, of course, is Zayne Parekh going to be healthy? Is he going to be ready for camp? He obviously missed the rookie showcase because of a lingering lower body injury, and it was more just to keep him safe, keep him healthy, maybe, I guess, precautionary, if you want to call it that, with a lingering lower body injury that kept him out of Team Canada showcase earlier this summer. But good news is Team Red and Team Yellow are mainly your NHL players, and Team Black is definitely more of your prospects. You're definitely the guys that were recently drafted, or your older veterans at Wrangler, like within the Wranglers organization, things like that. But Team Red is Mikael Backlund, Lucas Ciona, Blake Coleman, Matt Coronado, Sam Honzik, Huberdeau, Kadri, Justin Kirkland, Sam Morton, William Stromgren, Adar Suniev, Connor Zary for your forwards. And then for your defense, you have Jake Bean, Hunter Brusewicz, Nick Cechek, Joel Hanley, Zayne Parekh, and Mackenzie Weegar. Your goaltenders are Dustin Wolf and Devin Cooley. Number one, you look at this group and you see immediately that this is an NHL group. This is essentially could be your roster. It's obviously not, but it's an NHL heavy group. I like that Parekh and Weegar are together. I think that they are going to really use Weegar as a mentor for him. I think that with Weegar being the next captain, delayed or not, I think that he is a great mentor for any of these players, but especially a young player coming up on the blue line. I have nothing but good things to say about Mackenzie Weegar and his leadership. I think that this group is cool. I like it. I like that you're seeing Brusewicz in here. I like that you're seeing Stromgren, Suniev. They have Connor Zary listed as a left wing, which, they're not going to put him as center, which is fine, like on the list. But we'll have to see where things go from there. And then your second NHL heavy team is Team Yellow. You have Andrew Basha, who dealt with a serious ankle injury that required surgery earlier in this year and ended up missing the second game of the rookie showcase for precautionary reasons. Clark Bishop, who is obviously the captain of the Wranglers, Joel Farabee, Martin Ferk, Morgan Frost, Matvey Gridden, Dryden Hunt, Rory Currens, Adam Klapka, Ryan Lomberg, Martin Pospisil, and Igor Sharangovich for your forwards. And of course, your defense is Rasmus Anderson, Kevin Ball, Ian Kuznetsov, Miramanov, Braden Pahal, Solo, and your two goalies, Ivan Prosvetov and Owen Say. Owen Say did play in the rookie showcase and did very well. I think that it was a great free agent signing. And then, of course, you have Prosvetov, who just came back over from Russia. And your team black these are the guys that are either still early in their development or they didn't really see fit for them to be on the other two teams over another player, which I find interesting for one of the defensemen, which we'll get to. But Jacob Battaglia, Parker Bell, Nathan Brisson, Alex Gallant, Carter King, Hunter Lang, Levine, McCann, Silly, Wilkie. And then for your defense, you have Grushnikov, Herdig, Mac, Morin, Meso Phillips, and Jeremy Poirier. Do they just not see him as an NHLer? I'm curious. And I don't think that you can really write him off if you don't let him get some NHL time. Because he was one of their top defensive prospects at one point, and then he suffered a brutal injury, which could have ended his entire career. And then since then, it's just kind of been like pushed to the wayside. So I'm curious what happens there. Carter King is a local Calgary kid. He centered Hanzik and Suniev in the Next Gen Showcase last weekend. So these are all players that are still early or just not quite ready to make the jump to really truly competing for an NHL roster spot. But Conroy says that everyone's healthy. Everyone's good to go. Like I mentioned, that includes Zayne Parekh. I did see a tweet earlier today that intrigued me because it I've been very curious how they're going to do any sort of defensive pairings, and what might lie ahead for Parekh, or really the pairings as a whole. And Justin from Sea of Red Central said, D pairings I think could start the season. Weegar and Anderson, that would feed families. Ball and Pahal, I like that. I never really thought about moving Pahal up to the second pair, but Hanley and Parekh, those are okay. I can get behind that. However, another Twitter user, this is obviously not his real name, Zary Zalapsky, says he thinks it'll probably be Hanley and Weegar, Ball and Anderson, Parekh and Pahal, and then Jake Bean rotating in for Parekh and Pahal. Or sorry, Bean will rotate in with Parekh. But I don't think that they're going to put Parekh on the left side. Doesn't really make much sense to throw him into that when he is a right shot defenseman. So I do like the idea of Weegar, Anderson, Ball, Pahal, Hanley, and Parekh to start. However, I think you do kind of get lucky because Mackenzie Weegar can play on the left or the right side, so you have that versatility there. I think at some point in the season, you're going to see Parekh basically stapled to Weegar's side. I don't think that that's going to change, but we're going to get a taste of all of this before you know it. On ice sessions start tomorrow. Hockey's back. We are almost in full swing. It is so nice for Craig Conroy to get all of these extensions done once we go back to daily shows. He got the Dustin Wolf and then the Zary extension done like right as we were moving back to daily shows. And then of course we have the Backlund deal today, which is great. I think you can feel confident in this team for one reason or another. But that'll do it for me here on today's episode of Locked On Flames. Thank you all so much for joining me. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. It has been a long week. It is only Wednesday. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. Your Calgary Flames every day.